Welcome to the Blossom Mindset, a space for growth, reflection, and taking intentional steps towards the life that you want to create. I am your host, Lindsay, a behavior analyst, certified clinical trauma specialist, author, and entrepreneur. This podcast is here to support you in building self-awareness, reconnecting with your values, and moving forward with more clarity and intention. Together, we'll explore mindset shifts, practical tools, and meaningful conversations to help you work through challenges, realign when life feels off, and continue growing in ways that truly matter. As a gentle reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to be a substitute for any mental health or behavioral health treatment. I'm so grateful you are here and ready to start your personal growth journey. Let's get started. Before we delve into this episode of The Blossom Mindset, I'd like to give a trigger warning as we will be discussing women's self-defense, and through that we will be talking about different scenarios briefly related to sexual assault and violence. So if that does not align with where you are at in this present moment, please feel free to skip the episode. Thank you for tuning in to The Blossom Mindset. Hello friends, and welcome back to The Blossom Mindset. I am your host Lindsay, and today we have our first guest on The Blossom Mindset, so I'm really excited for this episode. I have Jax Hendrickson with Igneus Self Defense here today. Her and I have actually collaborated on a mindful self-defense nervous system regulation event. We are getting ready to host our second one called Connect with Your Inner Protector on June 20th in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm really excited to kind of delve a little bit more in with Jax today on how she works with women in self-defense. I think it's just a very important topic as we are learning just different defensive strategies. Jax primarily works with women in Charlotte, North Carolina, one-on-one with some self-defense classes, and also hosts different community events. So Jax, welcome and thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to delve more into this topic with you. So for everyone, can you introduce yourself a little bit and share more about what you do for the community?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me. I've been really excited to come on with you. I love what you do and everything you're about, and I feel like surprisingly we do connect, and that's like what goes into what Igneus Self Defense is. It's not just a class or a workshop or a program where you learn like how to throw some nasty elbows or like get someone off of you. Like, yes, that's important, but it's really, really rooted in developing enthusiastic community and passionate self-devotion so that when you master those skills, you have like the right mindset and the backing to be able to live it through.
And I know you are the owner of Igneus Self Defense, which you created from scratch, which is awesome. I would love for you to even delve a little bit more into your background and what Igneus means to you and why you created Igneus Self Defense.
Yeah, so I could write a book about this, and you know what? I probably will. But it really, like, just backtracking, and I know we had that trigger warning in the beginning, so this is like the first part of mentioning some sensitive topics. But I grew up in a very violent household. My dad was a, quote, functioning alcoholic, and there was a lot of just like physical punishment, but also this weird game where he wanted to make me tough. So I learned that receiving pain and being able to handle it equaled acceptance and love. So with that, moving out at 18, I experienced 3 different men between ages 18 and 21 who sexually assaulted me, one of which was a boyfriend. And I didn't even know it was wrong because of what I learned growing up. And so later, during that time, I was also in the fitness industry. I was, learning a lot of martial arts, ironically, right? So martial arts isn't the same as self-defense. And so through that journey, I wanted to help people. I became a cop. I was law enforcement for 2 years, got a lot of close quarters combat instruction there, went to extra trainings outside of like the normal. And when I got out, because it just wasn't a good fit, it's a whole other conversation. I was in so much pain, like emotionally. I didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. I'd been in all these male-dominated industries. I trained, and I still didn't feel safe. And I was like, gosh, like, I bet a lot of other women feel this way too, and probably even more so because at least I had training in my background. And so I taught my first self-defense class in September of 2022. And since then, the program is really, really built into the name. Igneus means to be on fire, to be passionate, enthusiastic, and forceful. And so my goal is to just open the door for women to walk through so that they can actually feel more powerful, more like stronger, more connected, have that passionate self-devotion without having to change who they are or having to conform to a guy's gym, a man's world. Like, you can have your long nails, you can have your dress on, we'll do a class with heels that's actually in the works. Like, nice. I love femininity, and feminine rage is scary, and you deserve to have access to it when you need it.
I love that. I really appreciate you feeling safe enough to open up and share your story. I think you just having that connection with women is so important, and feeling safe enough to share that story, I know, has already empowered so many women that you've worked with. I know you've worked with over 3,000 women, which is so incredible over the years. Yeah. And I don't think I actually realized that Igneus started in 2022 because Blossom also started in 2022.
How cute!
So
we're so
almost,
cute!
Almost a full circle. So I love that we have just grown, and this year for both of our businesses have just expanded exponentially, and we're almost halfway through the year. So I'm really excited that you get to be my first guest on this podcast, and we get to spend the next little bit delving more into women's self-defense, nervous system regulation, and how we bridge the gap. So thank you for being here today.
Of course.
I love that you have and host a variety of different community events. I know you've done punch and paint or paint and punch.
I've done a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. I think now, like, my focus is still going to be on, of course, like the practical self-defense and like the strict like programming of it, but I'm also opening up my program into monthly fantasy self-defense classes.
Okay.
So that's where you can embody like the energy of your favorite like character, whether it's superhero or like a fae assassin, whatever you want, and you go through the self-defense class embodying that energy, then to realize that it was still you being strong, being fast, being empowered through the entire class and experience, and it just makes a really nice like connection.
I love that. I think it's so important too. I feel like I've talked a lot about play this week just in general with the community, and being able to have fun while you're building skills, put your nervous system in a sense of safety.
Yes.
So if you're contacting that safety, it's easier for you to navigate and build those skills. So I love that you are doing those classes to be able to embrace those different perspectives and characters. And I like that you also said, like, you realize that you are you at the core, and that's just a big principle that I work with. And sometimes when people hear self-defense, I feel like a lot of times they hear like physical, like throwing a punch, kicking, like how do I get out of a defensive situation physically? Like I have to attack back. So how would you describe that, maybe from a different perspective that you work with your clients and the community on, that's not just physical? Because I know we are bridging that within our classes as well, that defense is not just physical fight, you have to throw a punch back. So what does that look like in your practice?
Yeah, I'll preface before this because it always comes up in my classes, because it's always really fun to learn like how to mess someone up, right? Like how do I beat someone up? And it's fun, but there's a lot of gray areas. Not every situation calls for an elbow to the nose, right?
Yes.
Or a curb stomp to the face. So yes, it's fun to think about. Yes, it's fun to practice. But it's really important to know how to use your discernment and to navigate situations. And for me, that starts with learning how to do it with yourself. So in every single class, every single opportunity that I have in a space, I really, really emphasize vocalizing your boundaries. So a great example is when we're holding the pad for each other. So it's like a rectangle shaped pad on your chest. And let's say you and I are partners. I'm nervous to receive impact because I have, trauma from the past where I have been hit before. So the first thing we practice is, hey, Lindsay, like, I'm really nervous to hold this pad for you. Can you go really soft, or don't even hit the pad at first? And me vocalizing that is confronting my comfortability and the level of it, respecting it instead of feeling bad about it, right? That's so important. And then being able to share that and feel the respect come back to you. Because a lot of us are in scenarios with family, friends, where we're just kind of used to not holding our boundaries. And even when we try, we feel negativity come back, like a defensiveness. So being in a self-defense class where, like, yes, I'm leading it. I run a strict, like, certain program in terms of the energy and respect with each other, you really get to feel the positivity come back from you holding that boundary. Does that make sense?
I love that. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes complete sense. And I think that's the first time you've shared that with me, and like that's how you run your classes.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense too, and I think it helps people be able to contact that safety a little bit better.
To control the choice.
Yes, to control the choice, set those boundaries, and for the person receiving the impact, I think that's important as well, because it's not just about, like, it's not one-sided. So I like that you teach that from the beginning, that this is not a one-sided thing, because it's helping you contact that safety, set those boundaries, and then make controlled choices. And we talk about controlled choices in our event as well, with that connect with your inner protector and learning how to control that nervous system response into which mode you're going to go into. So even just coming back to how you set it up with your classes, helping those women contact safety first, because the more we practice when we're in safety, it's easier for us to implement those skills going forward.
So much. And it might even feel redundant, because that topic's going to come up a lot, even if you weren't sitting in this chair. Even if I wasn't sitting in this chair, this is a topic or like a concept that we both preach and preach and preach. It's preached for a reason. It's repeated for a reason, because it's hard to get to the other levels without it.
You have to repetition and like repetitive practice of those skills. It's building a habit. You have to retrain your system from what it may know or not know. And it takes, again, that repetitive practice and building those habits. I did a self-defense class in college my freshman year, and it was an entire self-defense course. And I remember, like, it was so challenging. And it's just looking back at where my nervous system was at the time, I'm like, oh my goodness, like, that is rough. I don't know how I was in the class in front of 30 other women and women, trying to navigate and learn. And I'm still learning. I learned so much from you and your classes and working together. It takes practice, and you're not going to be perfect, right? Like,
and you're not supposed to be. Everybody wants to be this perfect vision, right? And it's really easy with social media to portray that. I get a ton of content on my feed of these amazing looking women having like the perfect lighting, the perfect video of like some cool spinning roundhouse kick and like an elbow and like a body flip and whatever. But like, really deep down, if you really sit down with them, they're like, oh my gosh, I had to work on my footwork the other day. Or, oh, like my elbow came out too much, or I wasn't blocking my face. And they have a decade of training. So when it's your first time or your 100,000th time, you're still going to have to take it slow sometimes. You're still going to have to work on the fundamentals. So giving yourself a hard time almost doesn't even make sense.
You have to let it go. Like, the more you give yourself a hard time, the more you're stuck in that thought pattern. Shows that dysregulation too, right there. And I think that's very important as we're learning and growing, that, you know, what we see on social media is not always the case. You may know what to do in a regulated state, in a practice state, but come a scenario, you don't. I know we talked about
messy.
this. It is. It can be very messy. You can try, and the goal is to learn how to regulate your system to access the skills that you know, and to be able to work through that too. And I know I talked about that with you with the scenario that I encountered right before our first one in Charlotte, where I was the target of a road rage scenario and didn't know what to do. Like, I kind of knew what to do, and I did the best that I could, even having self-defense training in the past. And you can't know what to do for every single scenario, which is, I think, where we bridge the gap with that regulation.
It's the problem solving is key.
Yep, because when your brain is offline, it cannot problem solve effectively.
No, it cannot.
So how would you kind of work with some of your clients in the community and the women on how to turn back on the brain in order to implement some of those skills?
That's really hard, because being able to turn... I also think it's kind of a misconception. Being able to turn your brain on to be able to problem solve, that makes it seem like, let me push this button and then I'm good to go. Something in a lot of high, like, first responder classes and trainings and environments, like military too, you talk about tunnel vision. And I mean, you see it in lots of different scenarios, not just those, but tunnel vision, it's not about kicking that out of your brain. It's about knowing how to function when it closes in. You're still going to feel shocked. You're still going to feel scared. You're still going to feel all those feelings, but it's learning how to acknowledge it, understand it, and know that it doesn't control you. So, I mean, really the raw answer is like, you just got to practice it.
Yeah.
Go to therapy, right?
Yes.
Work on yourself there.
Absolutely.
Practice it. Slow exposure, right? Which is where the classes come into play, where if you are getting triggered by receiving impact, feel it, right? Take a little bit more as long as you're safe and comfortable with it, but like just barely pushing the boundary or even tiptoeing close to it so that we can eventually expand past it. And that's where you get your comfort zone to expand.
Yes.
Right?
Yep, that goes back to one of the Blossom Mindset episodes about growth. Like, growth is just outside of your comfort zone. You have to take those baby steps. You're right, it all connects. And so how do you connect in the Blossom Mindset to your practice and your business?
Yeah, you know what? I'll go very broad.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of specific things I could say about the things you teach and the things that you discuss and explain. But in general, when I like press play, this is going to sound like I'm sponsored, right? I'm like, we're friends, okay? I'm just supporting you. But when you like enter the mindset of like, okay, I'm going to listen to her podcast and you press play, which you guys know, you're going to vibe with me. It's almost like, for me, it's like a waterfall, like a gentle flow of water going over my body. And it's like, I'm resting, because your voice is so smooth and calm. And with what I do, it often feels the opposite. And so knowing how to create the calmness within the chaos.
I love that phrase.
That's what you feel like. Okay. Even in friendship, like that's, we're going to turn into me just giving you a bunch of words of affirmation, right? But that's what it feels like. Being able to access both energies, the duality of it, of you can be fierce and vicious and protective and on it, right? But there's also, even at the same time, you're being this and you're honoring all of these other things going on under the surface. And I really feel like you have helped me even understand that and be able to incorporate that concept within my program.
Oh, I love that. That is such good feedback. Sometimes it's different, just being behind the mic and not always getting that feedback. So I love that you have been just a strong listener and supporter of the Blossom Mindset, and you do incorporate that in your practice. It's so great to hear those stories. So if anyone else has those stories, feel free to share, because I'm really excited to hear them, and it's just awesome to see how they integrate into your own personal life and practice, business. Just as a fellow business owner, I think that's just incredible.
For sure.
And I heard you talk about the balance, because the goal is to create that balance. It's not really an all or nothing. It's that balance, that flow within your own practice and nervous system regulation. And I mean, even coming back to that self-defense strategy and that original question that I asked you about the physical self-defense side, how do you work through other triggers that may not need that physical self-defense? How can you navigate like how to respond in the system, or even contacting, like sometimes our system will be triggered and react in a certain way when in reality the situation wasn't a safety concern or like a safety trigger. Does that make sense?
So when you're triggered in a scenario that doesn't necessarily call for the action.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Where your brain may remember previous trauma and think like, oh, I have to react because that trigger is similar to something in the past.
Yeah.
But in reality, you actually are safe in the moment. But there was just like a flash of maybe remembering or your system not knowing what to do.
Yeah. So that's a crazy question, because I feel like I would ask you that. I guess my take on that is, again, going to practice, right? I'll use fight as an example.
Okay.
Right? I love my clients that have the fight coping mechanism, because it's always really fun to work with, because from the surface level, it's usually, that's not surface level. From the surface level, it's, nobody's going to mess with me. Don't touch me. Don't talk to me that way. It's very aggressive. And usually that's because there was maybe a time where they couldn't defend themselves, and that just kind of placed this triggered like defensiveness. And I don't mean it in an offensive way, but there's an ego to it. So when we're training and we're thinking about that, I even think like the way you're actually responding physically, like let's say you are needing to, take action. Why are you taking action?
Yeah.
Right? Understanding, does this call for my response? And the fight one, again, that's why I'm using it. It's a good example of like, okay, well, maybe you were at a bar and the guy's drink was in front of you and he was, you know, trying to politely tap your shoulder. And then you like elbow him in the face because like, nobody's going to touch me, right?
Yeah.
Not really the situation for that. And understanding that, oh, like, why did I respond that way? Or why am I feeling that way? You know, if you're freezing, are you actually trapped? What around you? It's like grounding techniques, which is why I'm like, well, this is kind of something you would answer instead of me. Like it's like bringing yourself back to reality.
Yes. Yeah, that mindfulness,
there's
that
so
grounding.
many ways you can do it.
Yes. So within your classes, what are some techniques that you like to teach? Which I know is very broad, but yeah, just in general, like what are some defensive strategies that maybe key takeaways from your practice that those at home listening that haven't attended one of your classes might be able to start with if maybe someone's feeling a little bit nervous and don't know if they want to quite attend a community class yet?
Yeah. So the number one thing I tell people is to play the what if game. And you don't have to do it in like, what if someone's following me, right? You can do like, oh, like, what if I have this conversation with a friend and she gets really angry at me? How would I feel? What would I do? How would I respond? How would I want to respond? And just kind of play with the situation almost, right? And help get to know yourself. And then maybe bring it to your therapist, right?
Yeah.
And just be like, hey, does this sound good? Or like, what do you think?
Yes.
Or even a friend, you know, like whatever you have access to. For the skill set and the problem solving outside of that, I encourage the what if game. Like, what if someone is following you in the store? Are you able to go get help? Are you more of like the fawning where you're going to be like, oh, can I help you? Is that safe? Why are you saying that? Why do you think that's going to make you feel more safe by placating to them? Maybe it is the right choice. Every situation's different. And so being able to get comfortable, treat it like a video game instead of like the anxious mindset of like always on your guard. Those are two different things. You're in control. You're an avatar, right? You're an avatar in a video game and you're like, okay, my little sim character is going to go this way. And what if someone jumps out? Okay, this is what my character would do. And you just get comfortable with that and then you try to apply it.
I like that. That's a different perspective of the what ifs, because in my mind too I was thinking I do a lot of shifting between like what if this versus like, you know, what if it didn't work out versus what if it did. So trying to shift to like, what if that guy's following me? Well, what if he's just going somewhere else? But I like that you're using that what if and like, hey, this is a role play scenario.
Yes.
So when you are doing it, making sure that it is more of like a role play and not you're anxiously getting stuck in that.
Yeah.
Because that could be more harmful from a mental health standpoint as well.
And you're practicing for either way. I like the way you put it, where we're not necessarily like right or wrong because you don't know until you're actually in the scenario. Because what if they're not following you, but you feel like they are, and you get really, really aggressive, and that makes them aggressive when they were really minding their own business.
Yeah.
And then you've created a scenario.
That's true.
So discernment is huge.
Yes. And being prepared too, because in my scenario, I was like, you know, what if he's not following me? Let me get over.
Right.
And, you know, he made a last minute decision to follow me.
I always say, like, it sounds bad, but like assuming the worst, again, more so in like that what if mindset, not so anxiety inducing, because if you're prepared, there's less reason for you to feel anxious logically.
Yeah. More in like a controlled mindset where you're controlling your responses, which is what we go into in the Connect with Your Inner Protector, where you have control over, like, I'm going to now use spawn mode, I'm going to now use flight mode, which is kind of what I did in that scenario.
Literally.
Now, I was, you know, very anxious in this scenario, but if I completely, like, shut my brain off into a full panic, it was not going to be helpful. Like, what if it was more serious than it was?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, you know, let me try and use flight. Let me get away from this situation. That didn't help. Unfortunately, I got caught, you know, the whole back end story of it. But we did our best, and then we take that and we learn from it of what can we do next time.
Exactly.
And that's where that continuous repetitive skill building comes in whatever context, having a therapist as well, having a coach, having a friend, having a support system to work through some of these
enthusiastic
scenarios.
community.
Yes. which I love. I love that you built community. I think you're really strong in that, especially even just seeing your social media. Like, you really portray, like, the real life. Like, this is what's happening. You're not setting up a studio and making sure everything's perfect. You really are just showcasing, like, hey, this is what happens in my classes. And I feel like that is why people are drawn to you, and you're building and expanding your business in Charlotte, which is so incredible. I'm so proud of you. We need more of that in the community, and you're doing a really great job just blending, and having the chance to come to a class was great to see and step back and watch how you interacted with everybody, how they were interacting. I remember there was some like first time women there who had never done a class before, and they're like, okay, what do I do? And they were learning, and being able to be flexible and step in those moments was really incredible.
Yeah, and it's insane. You don't realize how much learning one thing can change someone's perspective. I had someone message me about the fantasy self-defense class I taught on Friday, and she said it was like a response to my video and me just like wanting to help people. And she was like, you don't understand, I was in tears because I had never felt so strong and empowered. And she was like, I hadn't even hit yet. And I was like, huh? I love that. I was like, wow. It like made me almost cry. I'm like, that's incredible. That's literally all I want.
That goes to show the work that you're doing and the impact that you're making, which is so important. I strive for connection within my practice, and connection helps the body feel safe. So even within your practice too, how do you feel like learning self-defense can help women understand themselves and feel like safe in their bodies?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to touch on the passionate self-devotion for sure. I think that's really the pillar of everything, because with self-defense, right, fear and adrenaline is a huge motivator for a lot of people. In the moment, outside of the moment, reflecting on past experiences. But fear and adrenaline only gets you so far. Yeah. It's like, oh, my life is worth defending. My life is worth defending. Okay, sure, yes. But is your life worth living?
Oh, I like that shift.
Yeah. But it's like, I mean that in like the most intense way possible, because, and that, like, of course, with the whole episode, you know, trigger warning, and, you know, there's sensitive topics, but what if you are taken to a second location? What if it does go past the first couple minutes? What if you're in a domestic violent relationship, right? It goes way deeper than some guy following you. Yeah. And it's like a stranger, or you're on a first date. That's really, really deep. And we can go into that, of course, like another time. There's a lot to say about it, but being able to look in the mirror and have that like deep, passionate, I care about myself, I matter, more than the Pinterest quotes and the TikToks and all that. Like, no, like, nobody's gonna tell me what to do. Nobody's gonna force me to do anything. Like, I passionately love myself. I'm devoted to my own life. Not in a selfish way, but in a way that you deserve to have. And when you start really implementing that, looking at taking a self-defense class is easier. Building your community has a different vibe to it too, because if you love yourself, you're not going to let people around you that don't love themselves and don't treat you with respect and adoration and all the things that you are wanting.
Yeah, that goes back to just living a values-aligned life and reconnecting with your values, because if you are living in alignment with your values, you're integrating that within your daily life. And I can see that within your practice and how you work with women, and just kind of helping them reconnect back with themselves, especially like if you value yourself. One of my most top questions I always ask during intake too with clients, who is important to you? And most of them are like quick to say like a family member, a pet, like a friend. And every now and then I'll get someone who actually says myself. And I love that. And even the ones that don't say that, I kind of test them a little bit. I'm like, do you value yourself? Are you important to yourself? Because maybe that's where we need to connect in and start.
Sometimes it calls for that. I've had a client where, and we had a lot of rapport. She was 18 years old. We've done a lot of sessions, and she was very much like not liking herself. And I noticed that for a long time, and, you know, you have to be gentle with that, especially with someone who's 18, and, you know, her family life wasn't all that great. But she started saying, like, oh, I'm really weak, or I'm really this, I'm really this. And I switched it up, and because she was afraid of receiving impact. And so I started, like, just throwing, like, a small underhand fist into the pad, really lightly. I'm like, oh, like, who said you're weak? She's like, my dad. I'm like, okay, maybe you are. And I started throwing it back in her face. And now, you don't do this with everyone, obviously, but like, we went through it and she started repeating all of these things to me, and I repeated it back to her, and she realized how silly it was. Because by the end of it, like, I was throwing elbows and she was barely moving.
Yeah.
Like, she was doing a great job, and she was able to recognize that. And I'm like, is any of that actually true? And she's like, no. Yeah. I'm like, well, then stop saying it to yourself. Which sounds real. I'm not a therapist, so like my communication with that's self-defense vibes. But yeah, it really hit with her. So.
I love that. That also shows that impact too, in being able to shift and shape our thoughts and kind of learning that reality as well, and that perspective of ourselves. And she was able to recognize, like, I am not those thoughts. Yeah. Those are thoughts that have shaped me, but you have the ability to change. You have the ability to shift your perspective, let go of some of those thoughts, and recreate new ones.
Write that down.
But I think it really is so important in seeing how all of the like different disciplines integrate. You integrate with sound bath and art and fantasy and mental health, and like there's so many ways that we can combine and work together, which I think is incredible to help from just a well-rounded standpoint.
Well, that's what it is. It's getting away from like, well, you have to go to a boxing gym to learn how to defend yourself. You have to go to jiu-jitsu. You have to act like a man, and you have to do manly things to be strong. No, you're allowed to have a nice sound bath after you throw 30 elbows onto the pad and run out of breath. Like, you're allowed to make art from your rage. You're allowed to be gentle with your emotions as you're working through things. I've cried plenty of times while learning, different martial arts tactics and stuff, and I've been made fun of for it lots of times. Even if I was outperforming people, they just pick something. They're like, oh, you're such a baby. Oh, you're such a girl. And I hate that. I'm like, I'll show you what a girl is. I'm a vicious, I can't curse. You know what I mean? I'm vicious when I want to be, and everyone else can be too. And it's really just showing women that you can be everything that you want to be.
Absolutely.
We're just opening the door.
Yep. You have to create it. We can't do it for you. Like, you have to be the one to create it and learn and build those skills. We can be supportive tools along the way. Yeah. But you are in charge of creating your reality, your life, and building and growing and all the things, and being able to empower women and shift the mindset. And that's why we're here. That's a part of the Blossom mindset, and I love that. I love that you are creating that within the women you work with. And I really appreciate you being here today. Is there any key takeaways that you would want somebody to walk away with that incorporates that mindset and the self-defense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you're allowed. You have permission, right? You just have to give it to yourself. You just have to look at yourself in the mirror and decide if you want more. Do you want the opportunity? Well, it's here. I'm here. I teach free classes too. We are available. If you want to do one-on-ones, cool. If you want to come to practice in the park that's free, cool. I'm ready for you to arrive, whether it's with me or whoever else. You are completely capable. I've taught over 3,000 women.
That's incredible.
And every single one, guaranteed, well, maybe not, but I say guaranteed, they learned at least one thing that made them feel stronger and more capable. And that's all you need. You don't need to learn how to be Black Widow, in one class, and you're not gonna, right?
Yeah.
All you need is one thing, and then you just keep the wheel turning at whatever pace you're comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I think that applies to everything. That's life.
Yes, absolutely. Baby steps, one step towards the life that you want to live, because you have that choice. You can choose to move forward and ask yourself, is this moving me in the direction I want? Or you can choose to move away. And it takes a lot of self-reflection there. And when somebody is ready to, whether it's starting self-defense, mental health therapy, whatever it is, a business. I know you started your business as well a few years ago. And it's a big step sometimes, but we start with this small attainable step. So whether it's reaching out, having a conversation, following you on Instagram just to get some more content, and understanding and learning, or just even showing up and watching from the sidelines.
Yeah.
Those are all different strategies that someone can take.
Yeah. And know that if you are interested in my program, everyone is met exactly where they're at.
I love that. We have to create safety, and you do such a wonderful job of that.
I appreciate
and
it.
Working with over 3,000 women, that testifies to that.
I barely believe it. I'm like, what? Really? And then I do the numbers, and I'm like, oh, wow, that's crazy, because I'm just having fun.
Yeah, I love that. We have to integrate fun. We have to integrate safety, and the more you love what you do, the easier it gets. I have one more question for you today before we wrap up. If someone was listening and tuning in today and they felt like, I don't need self-defense, I already know what to do, what would be your top recommendation? If they're like, I don't need a class, I don't need to learn self-defense, what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, there's two different ways you can go about it. My first thought is it's usually like a misinformation thing. Kind of going back to something I said earlier about repetition, where even like professional fighters, people that have been through a lot of scenarios, it's always good to practice. It's always good to slow down the movement and work on your foundational technique no matter what. And if you feel that you don't need that, you probably need a new coach. We can talk about that later. But if it's something where you don't have access to it, or you don't have time, or maybe it's a schedule thing, it's a prioritization thing. It's really just good for the community. And it's good, like, if you are someone who knows your tactics really well and you do love the way you train and you're not interested in that, I have social events too. There are so many women who come into my program who aren't familiar with the martial arts world, or who aren't comfortable with defending themselves yet. They're not confident in that way. And if you are, you can make such a difference, and it can encourage you to build on what you already have. I've been changed by it. My technique has grown, and I have over a decade of martial arts training, including like law enforcement, like military, like family background. So I think there's always an opportunity to learn something.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, I even took that class in college, and I'm still learning and growing from that. I know we talked about our event in Charlotte, North Carolina, and you are based out of Charlotte. So if we have listeners from everywhere, even in different countries, I've seen that we have some listeners in, which is so cool that it's expanded outside of the United States. What would you recommend for those tuning in that aren't local to Charlotte, and where to access some resources?
Yeah. So you can always follow me. Like, I have my TikTok, I have my Instagram, I have Facebook even, and I'm looking to add more platforms. I have a lot of things within my program that I'm building that will give more online access, more virtual stuff. So stay tuned, if you will, to see what that's going to look like. But I even just like to take away like the what if scenarios. There's so much content online. There are some techniques, like I just taught a takedown last Friday that came from TikTok.
Nice.
And that sounds silly, right? Like, oh no, you didn't get it from a martial arts gym, a sensei, like whoever. But I took the video, looked at it, broke it down. Okay, could my body do this? And then I took it to my trusted partner, and I was like, hey, like, can you do this real quick? Can you see if this makes sense? And we made a few tweaks. And then I took it to my, the guy I was going to for Muay Thai, the owner of the gym. I'm like, hey, can you like role play with this with me? And he gave me some more tips and tricks. He's like, that's it. You got it. That's the way you do it. And it came from TikTok.
I love that.
And that was not some like extreme skill set that I've gathered through years of training. It's really just like, would this work? And then figuring it out. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
Reaching out to your community and getting support. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, reaching out to your community, getting support. So if you are not local to Charlotte, reach out to your local community. Google, such an easy way to search self-defense classes near me.
Yeah. So take it with a grain of salt. Even my stuff, like, I'm a huge believer in learning how you feel strong. What works for your body? What makes sense for your brain? And if you find a studio in Utah or Idaho or Europe or wherever you're at, and you feel good and powerful and safe and like great there, then that's amazing.
Yes.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Keep doing it.
Try out a few different places, connect with who you feel like is best fit for you to contact that safety for yourself, which is so important.
100%.
Because you may not get it the first time around, and
you
that's
won't.
Okay.
You won't get it I'm sorry, you won't get it the first time around.
I don't know
like
if they
many
meet
things.
you.
I mean, sure, I'm perfect, but like not everyone else is. Humility.
Yeah. No, but that shows like our systems too. Again, we need to contact the safety, and if you feel safe somewhere, like stay. And if you don't, try something else out, because you never know what you're going to find. So there's a lot of different resources, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Again, take it with a grain of salt. Make sure you are safe, consulting with people if you need to. Having that accountability and that support system and finding what works for you is going to be very important.
Yeah.
So again, I appreciate you sharing that. I know it can be difficult to having like an in-person community, in the sense of trying to expand. And I know you're doing your best to try and expand, but increase access for communities and building, because you can't be in every single city.
No, you can't. I've got some things in the pipeline, though, trust.
Okay.
I haven't even told you about some of it. I know.
Oh, no. I get the tea before the tea comes out.
There's whispers. Now, guys, don't tell anyone. But there's whispers of me building a 12-week fitness, like, strength and conditioning program with, like, an online platform where we can all like connect and like do the workouts together. Building a workout journal for it.
I mean, if you need like a little test person,
I literally
right
will.
Here.
You're
Perfect.
signed up.
All
I didn't even ask if you wanted to be a part of it. You're already written down.
Number 1 on the wait list. I love this.
Yeah.
So yes, please stay tuned for Jax and follow along with Igneus Self Defense as she gets ready to release some incredible things for her business. I'm so excited. I love following along. I know you just updated your logo, and I got to see it before everyone else did, so I was really excited. But that support, that community is so important. So find what works for you. I know you have a lot of fun things coming up, so if there's anything you'd like to share that's ongoing, or where we can find you, where listeners can find you, feel free to.
Instagram, TikTok, all the socials and whatnot. Connect with your inner protector, I think, is a really good place to start. Because self-defense is intimidating, and coming to a class where it's very like mental health focused and a little bit slower pace, a little bit more gentle, I think it's a really good opportunity to build that foundation so that you can get into a little bit more intense training.
Yeah.
I want every single person to experience the connect with your inner protector with the coping mechanisms, even if you're a black belt. I don't care what level you are. You need it.
I guess we really didn't even touch on connect with your inner protector. So do you want to share a little bit more about what we're doing in the class?
Well, what's crazy is this entire time we're talking is literally what?
Pretty much,
It's like a long form description for the class, but it's an opportunity where you bridge the gap between like your, I guess, talk therapy and a self-defense class with the physical, where we're talking about grounding and nervous system regulation within the movement. Gentle exposure, things like that. So if you feel like in your normal therapy sessions, life coaching, whatever it is, you need more application with living it through, it's great to be able to move your body and actually recognize the stress in the moment with the support within, in the class that we have, with us both being there. And then on the other side, yes, I like to teach very trauma-informed classes, but it is very physical, and there's a time and place with those classes when we talk about our feelings. But if you're wanting more of that, more of like that gentleness, more of the, okay, I just got a download, can I talk about it? This is the class for that, where we can break it down.
Yeah, it is a really good balance, I feel like, between like the talk and the increasing that self-awareness to your body, because it's not just talking about scenarios, it's helping you understand yourself a little bit more, understand your own nervous system responses, and then how they show up in our actions or behaviors. So it all integrates. I work with that with a lot of coaching clients as well, and this is why I like being able to bridge and have these in-person community events to be able to integrate some of those skills, because we can talk about it, we can practice it one-on-one, but to help with that gentle exposure in other settings is really important. So I'm really excited to host our second class. Like, it's wild that we started this year and we're already on class 2. It'll be a smaller group to help, really foster that safety. And I'm looking forward to hosting more in the future. So if you are interested, feel free to, send us a message if you want another class. We are here in Charlotte and looking forward to continuing those classes. Jax, thank you for being here again today as the first guest of the Blossom Mindset. Like, it's just wild to even see Blossom blossoming in the way it is. I never would have expected this last year when I started the podcast.
You're doing it, dude.
I appreciate you.
I'm so appreciative to be here. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you again. And yeah, I look forward to our next event.
Yes.
So until next time, keep blossoming and focusing on yourself and figuring out what you need to thrive defensively and integrating that blossom mindset into your practice.
Thank you for joining in on this episode of The Blossom Mindset with me. I hope that our discussion has inspired you to take actionable steps towards blossoming into your fullest potential. Don't forget, the best way to show your support is by liking, sharing, and leaving a 5-star review on this podcast. Feel free to drop any ideas for future podcast topics by commenting on my most recent Instagram post of this episode. If you are interested in additional resources or one-to-one coaching, check out our website linked in the show notes. I am so proud of you. By tuning in and listening, you just took one small, actionable step forward towards blossoming into your fullest potential.